type 1 diabetes cure research. This is a really exciting thing that I want to talk about here. This researcher, Paolo Monti from Italy, he says, perhaps it's the fresh wind of the Nobel Prize for Medicine, but I'm thrilled to share that I've just been awarded a Sanofi research grant to develop chimeric antigen receptor T regulatory cells aimed at protecting beta cells in type 1 diabetes. If you haven't heard, a lot of the Nobel Prizes this year went out to researchers that are working on things like immune tolerance, fighting against autoimmune diseases. So that's really a strong focus right now in the entire research community worldwide. Let me read this last paragraph and then I'll explain to you what he's doing. He says, this project will explore how precision-engineered immune tolerance can move us closer to durable remission, where beta cells are not destroyed but defended. A great moment for our team and a sign that immune regulation is taking center stage. So you've probably heard of CAR T cells when it comes to cancer research. That stands for chimeric antigen receptor. They take a T cell and they train it to be able to recognize a specific tumor that might be growing inside someone's body. So the CAR T cell goes and attaches to that tumor and it's programmed to just destroy that tumor. That's how CAR T cell therapy works in cancer. So keeping that in mind, now let's talk about T regulatory cells, or Tregs as they are often called. A Treg is the peacekeeper of the immune system. They calm down the immune system. They calm down autoimmune attacks in your body. So what this researcher is going to try to do is to combine these two areas into a very specialized, genetically modified cell that can target beta cells specifically and calm down the body's immune attack against them in type 1 diabetes. I've reached out to this researcher here and I hope he gets back to me because I'd like to talk to him and ask him some specific questions about the research he's about to begin, and then I can bring that to you guys. That's what this whole platform is all about. This is a really exciting approach because it could potentially halt the progression of type 1 diabetes in phase 2 or early phase 3 when you still have enough beta cell function and activity going on. It could also be paired with new islet cells to protect them. It could be given in conjunction with an islet cell transplant potentially to protect those cells. I don't know exactly which pathway he is planning on using, but for example, a beta cell that produces insulin has receptors on the cell wall called MHC class 1 and 2 receptors. So he could create a CAR T cell that goes and attaches to the MHC class 2 receptor on the beta cell, and as soon as it gets there, it would release cytokines that would help calm down the immune system. It could also trigger the release of what we call effector T cells. Those cells specifically destroy beta cells when it comes to type 1 diabetes. So you can send in these super specialized cells to attach to a beta cell and start releasing things that basically calm down the immune attack and halt the immune attack against the beta cells. And you could stop the destruction of the beta cells and the progression of type 1 diabetes in its tracks potentially. So that leads us right into what Eledon Pharmaceuticals is doing as well. They have cured 5 people with type 1 diabetes. We're going to be hearing about more of them in the coming months. We should have 9 to 12 people by the end of the year. What their drug does is it prevents the activation of T cells and B cells that destroy beta cells. So it's stopping that process kind of at a different phase. If you can prevent a T cell from becoming activated, then you can prevent that whole cascade of destruction of a beta cell from even beginning in the first place. And that's how their drug works. Very interestingly, the very first work that Eledon did was they tested their drug out on 40 monkeys. This was a long time ago. I want to say 20, 25 years ago. And what they found was that it worked very well. And they also found that when they stopped giving these monkeys their drug tegoprubart, some of the monkeys continued to remain insulin independent. Their cure from type 1 diabetes continued even without their drug. And what they hypothesize is going on in that situation is that their drug somehow stimulates the production of these T regulatory peacekeeper cells of the immune system, which calm down the immune system's attack against beta cells. And at some point, you potentially may not even need to take their drug anymore. Even in humans, you could reach what's called tolerization. And that hasn't specifically been studied in humans, but it was studied in monkeys, and it did work on some of the monkeys. So the research on that specific thing is kind of new, and we don't have any human data on it. But I can assure you we're going to have some in the coming years. Potentially, this drug will just retrain your immune system to stop attacking beta cells, because that's what was happening in a lot of the monkeys. So I hope this helps you understand how T and B cells work in destroying beta cells. They are the reason type 1 diabetes exists. So if we can retrain them or stop them in their destruction towards specifically beta cells, like this researcher in Italy is going to start working on right now, or if we can just stop the activation of T and B cell destruction, like Eledon is doing, those are both ways that you can cure type 1 diabetes. So very exciting stuff, and make sure you follow along. And if there's any further developments in this gentleman's research, I will absolutely bring it to you. And I forgot to mention what this is a picture of. This is an immunofluorescence micrograph stain of an islet cluster. All of the green cells you see there are beta cells that produce insulin, and those blue stains are the nucleus of those cells. And my daughter just went high. I just got a high alert on Dexcom. That's great. And then the red cells are the alpha cells that produce glucagon. So you can see this is called an islet cluster. It's a real one. It's a human islet cluster. Isn't that cool? This is the cell that we need to protect. These are the cells that both Eledon and this researcher are targeting to protect so that we can cure type 1 diabetes.